guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about eyeshadow. Shocker. But more importantly, I want to talk about indie brands because I feel like they just don't get enough love and they never have. In the pursuit of satisfying the hole in my heart that exists in the shape of a colorful eyeshadow palette, I've tested out so many amazing indie brand formulas that I really enjoy. But just in general, I feel like indie brands, I can consistently turn to them to get inspired. Whether it's with a really good color scheme or with a really just bomb formula, I think indie brands have been killing the game, and also they've been setting a lot of trends. I feel like a lot of the trends that come into like the mainstream makeup area were originated from indie brands. So today I wanted to pay homage to 10 of my favorite indie brands that are creating really great eyeshadows. So I have a bunch of really cool palettes to share with you guys, whether they're from like bigger indie brands that a lot of people know about or smaller ones that are less recognized. I just really want to share 10 of my favorite indie brands right now in the eyeshadow game. It's actually pretty exciting. Some of these palettes you've never seen on my channel before. They're newer releases that I've been testing out recently, and some of these things you've definitely seen. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you guys get some good recommendations for some really cool, less talked about brands, because there's only so much we can talk about those 4 major eyeshadow brands: Anastasia, Morphe, ColourPop, Huda. I think I've rambled enough. Full details of this look should be on Instagram already. Necklace is Fraser Sterling, earrings are Ana Luisa, top is Forever 21, and jacket. So, let's get into it. As usual, I guess I'll start off with what I'm wearing on my eyeshadow right now. I'll start off with what I'm wearing on my eyes right now. I've talked endlessly about the Sweet Paradise palette. This is one of my favorites, like huge rainbow palettes, really beautiful color scheme, and surprisingly, one of the best formulas I've tried in a long time. So a lot of like unique takes on colorful shades in here. Like, it's not every day that you see like a navy blue in here or like a really rich mustard yellow or beautiful like raspberry pink like this. I think this is a really well done palette, but it is huge. Whenever there's a palette that I have with eyeshadows and highlighters in them, I usually neglect one of the 2 things in there. So I'll either reach for it exclusively as an eyeshadow palette or exclusively as a highlighter palette. But they remedied that and they came out with some smaller just eyeshadow palettes recently, and I gotta share. One I'm currently wearing on my eyes right now is the Dreamscape palette. So this is a very beautiful, pride appropriate packaging, and here are the colors.
Precious when you smile.
This, I think, is a rainbow palette with a twist. It's a fun take on rainbows. There are a lot of like conventional, just basic shades in here, but there's also some really cool neons. So while you do have like your standard red, green, yellow, you have this like bright orange and this bright green here. And I was kind of nervous because brighter shades like this, especially like neon shades, tend to have a very stark white base to make them that level of brightness. So they go onto the eyes and they're chalky as hell and they just don't show up very well. That's been my like typical experience with neon shades, so I was really nervous that this was going to be the same and I was going to be let down, especially because I do love Sweet Paradise so much. But this has been performing really well lately. I've been doing a couple Pride looks with this one, and I used it for today's eye look. So I'm wearing Loud Enough, this neon yellow in the inner corner, Clear, Right Mind, Surreal, and Logical on the upper lash line, and then on the lid I have Just, Vivid, Land of Dreams, which is a really beautiful eyeshadow name, and then Logical just smoked out onto the outer corner. I think this is such a fun spin on a rainbow palette. I also love that it's all mattes. I think this is such a fun take on a rainbow palette. I especially love that it's all mattes. I think that their matte formula really does shine, whereas the shimmers in their Sweet Paradise palette I liked, but I didn't like actually use them that often. I just more so reached into here for the colorful mattes. So I love that they listened to the criticisms and came out with a completely matte palette. I think this is one of the most well executed releases in a while. And their brand is very affordable. So this, I believe, is under. They have a few other color schemes as well. So if you're not wanting as many bright shades and you're just wanting like a good mix of different things. I'm also testing out the Daydreams palette right now. Also very beautiful. There's a good array of like nice colorful brights in here. Moony is insanely beautiful in this lime green shade up here called Means.
Brown cow, stunning!
But there's also a lot of like rosy tone neutrals in here as well, so it kind of reminds me of like the best of both worlds. And whatever you decide to pick up from Moira, I would say that you're in good hands. I definitely think that their matte formula is their strong suit, but their colorful shades. So I've been very much enjoying these, and these are one of my favorite, really underrated indie brands. When I first got this palette in the mail and opened it up, I was so excited by how the shimmers looked that I posted it on my Instagram stories. But Alter Ego recently released a new Goddess palette, which is a dupe for the Natasha Denona gold palette. For some reason, when the Natasha palette came out, I was just not feeling it. I felt like it was just a bunch of really boring brown shades and then like one blue shade to draw us all in. But I opened this palette up and I was like, oh, there's pukey browns in here. Let's go. My love for like a good pukey brown shade has definitely been expressed many times here on my channel, but I'm really impressed by the color scheme in here, which makes me wonder if I would actually like their original Natasha palette. But now that I have this, I'm totally fine. I posted a look with this one on Instagram, but I'm really thoroughly impressed with this one. Alter Ego also came out with the Temptress palette, which I reviewed a while ago on my channel. This is a sultry dupe, and I liked this one. The color scheme was like meh to me, but I actually really liked the formula. The fact that I really liked this color scheme had me very excited. I was really concerned that their formula would be inconsistent between palettes and their brand. The mattes in here are really, really nice and buttery. They blend super easily. I would say that they're kind of like Anastasia. They are a bit powdery, but they're very soft as well. So I was nervous about the teal blue being really shitty, but it's not. I do think that the strong suit of this palette is the shimmers, and they're laid out in 3 columns. So column, column, column of shimmers, which is an interesting layout. These are just what I would define as a really wet shimmer. So if you can see that, that is, a lot of these have nice duochrome flips as well. So they just really translate as beautiful, wet, and like juicy on the eyes. I've been really enjoying this palette. So of the 2 palettes that they already have, I would definitely go for Goddess over Temptress, just because I feel like this is just out of this world and the shimmers in here are a lot more fun. I've been really liking this palette a lot. I don't know what it is. It's just the neutrals in here are like rich enough and exciting enough that I feel like really compelled to reach for this on the everyday, but also if I want to do like a nice blue look, yeah. I think there was a point on my Instagram where I posted like 4 looks in a row using this palette, and I was like not using anything else in my collection, but the Sosu and Kaylee MUA Urban Bible palette I think is probably one of my favorite indie purchases to date. Kaylee's an Irish makeup artist. She does amazing, insanely beautiful eye looks, and she's one of my favorite Instagram pages to follow, so definitely wanted to support her, and this palette kind of blew my mind. Unruly and Sacred Fire have quickly become like 2 of my favorite shades in my collection, especially in terms of like reds. Reds are very hard to formulate, and Kaylee specifically talked about in her launch video that she made Unruly so that it blended out to be a little bit pink on the edges, so it looked like you wore multiple eyeshadow shades when you only used one. So beyond the formula just being insanely really good, I just think that the color scheme is also very imaginative. So many different things you can do with this palette, so many different ways you can take it. Really my only big complaint is that there's like no like mid-toned matte shades, so I wish there were like few good transition shades for me. Not a huge complaint. I'm not sure if Kaja really qualifies as an indie brand. Probably not. They are in Sephora, but I feel like not a lot of people have been talking about their Beauty Bento eyeshadow trios, and I just started testing these out, so I wanted to get my review out there because they've been on my to try list for a really long time, but I just like kept putting it off, especially when I saw them in stores. I was like, that is tiny for $21. It's basically 3 single eyeshadows for $21, which is like not horrible, but it's a very small little compact packaging, which is great for travel, not great in terms of like eye appeal or just like finding it in my collection. But I decided to pick up the Orange Blossom trio just because I thought it was the prettiest one, and it's all shimmers. I believe they are coming out with trios that have mattes in them now, but I really enjoy these. If you do use shimmers a lot in your eyes, which on my more neutral days I like doing just like a basic matte crease, like a very like light transition shade dusted through, and a really nice like popping shimmer all over the lid. That's just kind of my favorite like very low effort lazy girl eye look. I really like the shimmer formula in here. They're very like glittery packed, so they kind of remind me of the Dose of Colors Friendcation palette, the shimmers in there, or like their Block Party shadows. They're really nice like foiled shimmers, but they have a lot of like micro glitter infused in there, so they really look very like wet and glossy on the eyes without being like a glossy like gross texture. I appreciate that there's a tiny mirror in here. You can't really do anything with that. They're just very fun and they're super easy to travel with. So I will definitely be picking up and reviewing some of their matte trios as well, just because I really want to try out what their matte formula is like, but really enjoy these little bento thingies. They speak to my soul. Super cute little indie brand that I recently found out about through Instagram. Prada Cosmetics is a vegan and gluten-free and just like very crunchy granola type brand, I guess.
The bags under my eyes are Prada. Kill your family.
They have a lot of like really nice natural products. I've been testing out some of their cream blushes lately. I was really interested in trying out this eyeshadow palette. This is called the Golden Hour palette, and it's all shimmers. So normally I usually like to go for something with a mix of shimmers and mattes. From what I can tell, they pretty much only do shimmers, which is interesting. If you've ever swatched Loraque's eyeshadows, those are like soft to a fault. Their matte shadows are the creamiest, like most dimethicone filled mattes I've ever tested in my life. These are very similar. They're almost like a cream texture without actually being cream shadows. They're powder eyeshadows, but they have this like really soft, buttery smooth texture. They're very finely milled. So as a result, a lot of these shimmers are pretty soft in the eyes, but because they are still like technically powders, they have this really nice lasting power, and they pack this really gorgeous, just like wet. If you can't tell, I like my eyelids to look greasy and wet. Probably my favorite shade in here is called Phenomenon. It looks like a basic green shade, but it has this really nice like brown, reddish green duochrome flip. And I've tried a bunch of different like red, brown, green duochrome flip shades, but this one is my favorite. Like from the Comfort Zone palette, there's one. My favorite way to use this one is with a nice basic brown in the crease, and then this all over the lid, just like smudged into the brown. Whew. It kind of looks like an oil slick. I just love the duochrome flips in these ones, and to be warned though, the shadows do have kind of like a eucalyptus scent to them, so if you are really sensitive to that kind of thing, I would say steer clear. It's probably just because of all the really like natural ingredients in here. Like from what I can tell, there's oregano leaf extract, olive leaf extract, lavender, thyme, rosemary. It doesn't smell bad, it smells like something. It just smells herby, which might not be everyone's thing. So I really like this one. I think their color schemes are worth checking out, and I think they came out with a new one recently with some blues in there. So next up, I wanted to mention Ciate really quickly. If you watched the last video, you know. No. Ciate is one of those indie brands I feel like it's kind of like Diet Juvia's Place. They're kind of around that same price point, except Juvia's Place I feel like is a lot more like mainstream in terms of indie brands. Like a lot more people know about Juvia's Place than Ciate. They have a like matte version of this where it's just all matte rainbow shades. I got the smoky one because I wanted to test out some of the shimmers. I don't like the shimmers, so I would definitely recommend getting the all matte one. But the matte shades in here are really nice. So if you saw the last video, I was blending eyeshadow with chopsticks, and this still blended out. If you've ever like smelled one of the original Morphe palettes, so like not the Jaclyn Hill palettes, but the 35O or some of the earlier just like private labeled palettes, this smells like that. It has a very like potent kind of factory made scent, but the quality of the eyeshadows are really good. So if you're wanting some like good solid colorful matte shades for a really low price, this is an awesome option. It's not a palette that I think I'm gonna keep forever. Like I definitely could see myself decluttering this palette in the future just because I don't use the shimmers in here and because I do have a lot of colorful matte shades, but I'm glad that I was able to test it out. I think it's a pretty solid option. And this is a brand I really like to keep my eyes on. Not only do they post really nice looks on their Instagram, I just think that they're coming out with some really cool palettes. Would it even be a Julia video or an indie brand video if I didn't mention the love of my life? It's actually really funny because somebody recently commented on my channel. They were like, if you talk about the Gemini palette in the next video, I'm gonna unsubscribe. And I'm like, okay. I talk about products I like, and this is like one of my favorite things of all time. So I don't talk about it in every video. I talk about it when it's relevant to like eyeshadow discussion, and I want to share like one of my favorite palettes ever. So sorry. Gemini palette is personally my favorite for them just because I really do enjoy the matte assortment in here. Again, pukey browns, mustard yellows, and olive greens. This is me in a palette. It's grungy, it's got like attitude, it's really buttery and smooth and creamy, and this just kind of screams like it's not a phase, mom, and that's the phase I'm in. Smoke Sessions is admittedly pretty similar. Like when I first saw this one, I was like, it looks the same as Gemini, so I don't think I need that one. My stuff has always consistently ended up broken from them when I've ordered directly from Melt, but now that they are in Sephora, I feel safe again. Smoke Sessions is a really good complement to the Gemini palette. I think you can really create some of the most beautiful looks with the two palettes together. But if you just want to use Smoke Sessions, I was surprised with how many looks I could create with just the shades in here. Like I thought having only two mattes was going to be a huge problem, but I love that you can really go in the like very deep, dark, grungy, like minty green area or the deep, dark, grungy olive green area. It's a moneymaker. This is some good kush.
Smoke weed every day.
And then some people have recently advised me that the Blueprint stack is actually not a good representation of Melt's stacks. It's still pretty god tier. I think the formula in here is insane. I wish it wasn't completely shattered when I arrived. We roll with the punches in this house. So I can't express how happy I am that Melt is now in Sephora because they are probably my favorite indie brand of the entire thing that I'm mentioning here. And I just feel really good about the fact that it's accessible now, that people can actually get their hands on stuff that I talk about, that you can order from Sephora, being able to know that you're not going to get a completely shattered eyeshadow palette and then lose a bunch of money on that. Now that Pride season's kind of come back into stock? Season? What? Let's try that again. Now that Pride season is back, I've fallen back in love with Sugarpill once again. They are one of the OGs in the game in terms of like colorful eyeshadow, so I think a lot of people in the early on game like invested in these, but now that new things have come out, especially like the James Charles palette and just like more affordable options, I feel like these have kind of gone out of fashion. But they are one of the indie brands I feel like can just really get me excited about stuff again, and their eyeshadows are no joke. They're one of the best formulas ever. Getting a whole palette from them can be a bit of a overwhelming investment. I know they have like 6-pan palettes now, which is still like, it's $60, which is gross. Honestly, I would recommend, if you're wanting to start out buying stuff from Sugarpill, just getting a few different shades, just really investing in a certain pan that you like. But in this beautiful month of June, I really want to shed a light on this brand because Anastasia has come out with the Alyssa palette, which I think is awesome. I know NYX is collabing with Aquaria, but Sugarpill has been one of those brands that's always highlighted drag artists on their Instagram page, consistently been supporting them, consistently supported that community, and I just think that Sugarpill does really good eyeshadows. They're a bit of a splurgy company, but definitely one of my favorite indie brands. Once again, kind of like I did with Kaja, gonna bend the definition of an indie brand a bit. This is not necessarily an indie brand, but their eyeshadows are criminally underrated, and kind of their entire brand. Ciate London. I have tried out quite a few things from them. When their Glitter Storm palette came out last year, I was super impressed, not just because of this, mostly because of this, but not just because of this. To this day, this remains like one of my favorite all cool tone palettes. It's just really, really well put together. The glitter shades in here are such a special formula, really beautiful and high impact on the eyes, and just, look at that. Their matte formula is stunning as well. Very easy to blend and very buttery and creamy, but with not a ton of powder kick-up. They also recently came out with these single like metal eye toppers that I really wanted to talk about because I know Natasha came out with those like metallic duochrome like top coats last year. These are the marbled metals shadows. They're kind of like a cream pigment texture and they're so nice. Like if you can see, they have this like white marbling, which kind of reminds me of the Huda Beauty New Nude palette, but that just gives them the most dimensional, crazy look on the eyes. Like, this is again another new release that I really have not seen anybody talking about, which is disappointing. My favorite shade is the shade Twisted. This needs to go all over my eye look. That is green. I still have not tried out their Chloe Morello palettes, which have a lot more mattes in them and a lot more beautiful, like, colorful matte shades. I will definitely at some point purchase probably the second version because that one has a lot more, like, fun, colorful shades. But the Glitter Storm palette is consistently on sale. One of the best palettes I've ever tried in my life. Eye toppers, I mean, you saw what just happened here. Finally, one of my favorite indie brands besides Melt is Nabla. I love Nabla, even though they post the fakest ass swatches I've ever seen in my life. And their formula is definitely like one of my top 5 favorites. And Soul Blooming is one I've been using more recently lately, just because this color scheme really lends itself to summer looks. I recently did a look with this one with, surprise, surprise, the neutrals in here that I ended up posting on my Instagram. But I just reach for this one when I don't know what I want to use. I always look into these palettes and I'm like, haha, good formula. Creamy is a bit more on the conventional warm tone side. They have been coming out with a lot more like colorful palettes recently. I do really want to buy the new palette. I don't remember what it's called, but it's beautiful. They are a European brand. A few of the brands in here actually are from Europe, so they are a bit harder to get if you are in the US, but you just kind of get a taste of what people in like the UK and Europe have to go through buying stuff from America. So I usually buy Nabla from Beauty Bay. Foreign Country Boy.
I love you.
Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this eyeshadow filled video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any indie recommendations for me, please let me know because I know that a lot of these brands are like the babies of indie brands. Like there's so many amazing brands out there that I still have to try from, so let me know what your recommendations are if you have any. Crack open a cold one with the boys. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Also follow me down below for makeup looks like this posted all throughout Pride season. And if you made it to the very end of this video, whether you're part of the bonus meme team, the Dewy Assos, or the, I don't know what else you guys want to be called, I love you and you get the bonus meme. Bye.
This?
Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah.
He succeeded Kennedy.
Succeeded Kennedy. He was after Kennedy, right? Succeeded Kennedy.